I would like now to move on to our next speaker, Dr. Milad Sabali, Lebanese in nationality, of course. He's the Managing Director of Global Learning, the Middle East leader in e-learning solutions, which is a very good way to start the conference. He has played a key role in shaping the face of virtual education as we know it today in the Middle East. He started his career as a project engineer in Hyundai Engineering and Construction for a few years, and then a research engineer in robotics and AI at Denso Toyota Group in Japan for 5 years. You're moving around, Dr. Sabali. Over the past 20 years, he launched several startup companies in the MENA region, specializing in technology, artificial intelligence, and learning. He has managed several innovative large-scale projects related to digital transformation of educational institutions, applying his expertise in artificial intelligence, management, academia, and automation. He has a vast and diverse academic experience at leading universities in Japan, the US, UK, and the Middle East, including chairman of the IT department at the American University in Dubai in 1998, founding provost of the first accredited virtual university in the Arab world, Syrian Virtual University 2002, the founder of the first accredited blended learning academy in the Arab world, Jordan Online Academy, Al-Balqa, Applied University 2007, sorry for pronunciation. He has played a major role in producing the new Global Index for Critical Thinking Skills Measurement and Development in partnership with Cambridge University in 2006. As an international figure in the area of artificial intelligence, robotics, and automation, he is a founding member of various international organizations. He has invented new models for private-public partnerships. I can go on with a long list of achievements. It would never end, I believe. And he served as the president of Middle East E-Learning Association. I didn't know we had an e-learning association. And he has earned his doctorate degree in systems engineering, specialized in artificial intelligence, robotics, automation from Nagoya Institute of Technology in Japan. So I think you would find yourself very comfortable in IFLA because you have the Japanese, the MENA, and Europe, and so it would be very good. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Sabali. And I'm sure your experience, and I hope we will see you in Lebanon, sharing your experience with us in Lebanon and the education in Lebanon. That would be very nice to see, hopefully in the future. So please, the floor is yours. And please, all the participants, if you have questions for Dr. Sabali, just type your questions in the Q&A. And for Ms. Lisbon as well. Yes, Dr. Sabali.
Thank you very much, Randa. And it's a pleasure to be with you today. And I've been a little bit far from the library business, so to speak, but I lately, during the COVID, I had some exposure to different activities related to how to transform some of the activities in various libraries in the region into some kind of smart library services. So today I will go through a couple of points. One, the new trends in library as I saw them. Maybe you are more experienced in that than me. And then the disruptive technologies that are affecting library services. And then AI specifically as one of those disruptive technologies and its applications in various fields, and specifically how it's affecting the smart library services. To start with, I think that it's very important to have, first, can you see my screen? I believe you do.
Yes, Dr. Sabali, yes.
Okay. So to start with, there are a couple of entry points regarding the functionality of and the role of libraries at a national and international level, starting with provisioning of information for human development and sustainability. And then it should be at the right at the heart of any national policies and strategies for economic, social, and cultural development, which unfortunately, when I was listening to George Khabazi, I thought that this is totally out of sync in Lebanon. And this is why I would like to say at this point that whatever I will be saying about technology and AI and different applications, the starting point differs from one country to another and from one library to another. So I will be talking in general, not only about, I don't have much information about the Lebanese library system. I would love to learn more about it. But what I will talk about is what has been happening globally and in the regions where I was part of some related teams. So the library's obligation is to be at the edge of different uses of culture and technology, as someone has put it. And at the same time, the main mission of the library is to offer equality of access to information for every citizen and to be a trendsetter in digital use and implementation of emerging technologies. Specifically in the digital era, there are several changes that libraries have to deal with. First, in the user needs in terms of transitioning from print to digital, and the use of different types of and forms of digital content, and how to transform the services themselves into digital, intelligent, value added, and how to have a new delivery system at distance, especially that was highlighted during COVID, which will be available 24/7 all over the year, and the changing search behavior and experience and expectations of users with all kinds of social media that are available and search engines around. So in addition to the changes in the concepts of referencing, cataloging, indexing, and the systems that are related to new logic rather than the old 19th century logic that has prevailed for over 100 years at libraries, in addition to the increasingly vast quantities of unstructured data. Nowadays, with all kinds of devices connected, as you will see in a minute, we have a lot of unstructured data versus the old structured data. The changes in professional skills, we need more data scientists, more data analysts, and so on, and a new generation of librarians, actually, as we'll see by the end of this session. And therefore, we need to automate the different processes, to optimize space, and to make intelligent decisions and provide intelligent services. Accordingly, the library operation has been affected directly, or is going to be affected more in the coming couple of years, by the advancements of the Industrial Revolution and digitalization, artificial intelligence, IoT, big data, robotics, quantum computing, cybersecurity, 3D printing, and so on. And this will transform the library from a place to gather and read books or search for information to an innovative, smart library which can provide new information, generates added value for the people, become the lungs of knowledge in the world of research and education, promotes digital citizenship and skills, copes with the speed of the digital technology developments, upgrades jobs specifically related to digital skills, use technology to deal with information overload. As you will see in a minute, the quantity of data collected and therefore available information is by far more than what the human intelligence can cope with. And also to help distinguish the trusted and fake information. So the library new role, or the library of the future, would be an infrastructure and open access platform, as well as a social and community hub, and an intellectual and learning center, especially now with the development of all kinds of digital learning, informal learning, lifelong learning programs, and so on. There is a major role that the library can play in that direction, as well as an intelligent and digitalized environment, which provides different types of services. So the conventional services of acquisition, processing, lending, awareness, biographic, and maintenance are now a little bit limited. And what is needed is more something, a new ambience, a new space to implement, bring your own device, a cyber library to accommodate users with various disabilities, a space to display thoughts, ideas, intelligent and flexible catalogs, a single portal where students can or users can access all kinds of services from one single point, federated and AI-based search, which means searching in different databases of different libraries that are connected into different virtual networks, cloud, mobile, social media services, as well as various security systems, RFID, biometrics, face recognition, digital signage, statistical services, AR, augmented reality, virtual reality, robotics, robots, drones, etc. So all these are have started to be implemented in a way or another at different speeds in different libraries across the world. At the beginning, libraries started to introduce Internet of Things and different devices that are interconnected and some RFID technologies. But if you want to move to a full-fledged smart library, you badly need artificial intelligence for the reasons that we talked about, as there is a need for more efficient, fast, and high-quality services, more attractive information and interconnection environment, more diversified information sharing space, and modern scientific and technological means to increase readers' experience and users' services. And intelligent services that can be brought into the normal business of the library would be self-borrowing and returning systems, mobile and network self-renewal systems, intelligent inventory and positioning systems, 3D printing, augmented and virtual reality navigation systems, digital assistants, intelligent seat reservation and space optimization, etc. And the top trends for and priorities for libraries in 2021 and on is first inclusivity, the availability of open access, the changing nature of education, how to cope with it, and digitization, optimizing operations, and media literacy. So the second part of, after this initial introduction about libraries, would be about disruptive technologies that are definitely going to change different status quo, either at the library level or in many facets of life. First, big data. We hear a lot about big data, which is a collection of all kinds of data that are structured and unstructured, which libraries can use to analyze their data holdings and understand the users better, and thus provide different types of personalized services and smart services. And the direct impact is that it will allow for a better reach of customers, better connection with the community, personalized user experience and content and resources, cost reduction, automation, faster and better decisions. And the fields of application in libraries are related to data analysis and visualization. But there are some limiting factors, such as lack of qualified skills and data protection, and the openness of data issues, and then the funding problems. Blockchain is another technology which also it uses a distributed database that organizes data into blocks, and those blocks can only be updated by people who have the right access for that, or the rights to do that. And this is usually built in libraries in order to have an enhanced metadata system, which keep track of the different changes and updates to the entire system, and validate credentials, provide community-based borrowing that could extend the traditional library collection beyond the library walls, in addition to secure intellectual property and other areas. Internet of Things is, again, connecting all kinds of devices to the internet, either through RFID or through Wi-Fi or different types of internet connection. And an example for that is to have a self-service kiosk, which is monitored from the main library, which can be anywhere, and then it tracks usage and identify usage trends, make recommendations, and so on. And the library can offer a better use by enriching its services and collections by implementing different types of IoT devices and sensors, where all books, for example, can become material objects that can be automated, or the return system can be automated so that the books are tracked, the rooms are and spaces are tracked, program attendance is tracked, monitoring humidity, all kinds of services within the library or online can be data about all these can be collected into one single place, and later on we'll talk about how it is analyzed. Robots and drones, of course, this is a bit advanced, but now once you go away or go out of the software or virtual world into some physical world where you need some movement, you need some delivery of books, you need some selection of books from the library and collection and so on, or organizing the shelves and whatever. This can be done by different types of robots that we started seeing them in different libraries, in addition to the delivery by drones to different places wherever the user is, based on his location, which can be provided by GPS. Augmented reality is another very interesting technology, which is a technology that superimposes a computer-generated image on the user's view, as you see here in this in this tablet, where you have all kinds of additional information about what you are seeing as live as shelves within the same place. So this can be applied for augmented books, where if you look at the book, you can see a video about the topic that is available in the book. And now this is becoming very important for interactive curricula as well as for transforming books into some interactive material. Guided tours, searching for media, gamification, shelf maintenance, all this stuff. There are many applications that are still at the prototype level, or they started implementing it in different places in Europe, US, and China. And then comes artificial intelligence, which can start by asking, can machines think? Can machines behave intelligently? And it's a very broad concept. We'll talk about it in a bit more details, but it provides different levels of intelligence, flexibility, and it tries to mimic the functionality of the human brain and surpass it sometimes in many specific aspects related to speed, precision, and power, especially in controlled environments. So AI can play a critical role in the library values and the way of work. It shifts the focus from what we have now to the way we navigate the information architecture in the future, how to access collections, and how to expedite and optimize processes in order to free the librarians and the human operators from labor work and make them focus on enriching the public library experience rather than doing tedious, repetitive work that can be done by different machines or software. And the challenges for this are how to attract new, diverse audiences, how to provide a faster, better user experience, how to bridge the emerging skill gaps that we will be seeing, and how to compete with other information sources such as Google and social media and others. So having said that about AI, we can look a little bit about some jargons or some fields that are relevant. For example, what kind of fields or disciplines are relevant to AI as a field? Some people might say computer engineering or computer science, or that's it, or mathematics. But it has to do something with, it has some boundaries with philosophy when you ask whether we can create a human brain if the computer power reaches a certain point or bypasses the power of the human brain. Can we create a human brain or a robot or a software that can think and react and have emotions and have intentions like the human being. And this is also related to religion even, because many people would say this is spirit and not mind and brain and so on, which is something I personally have gone through a deep discussion back in 1994, 95 when I was doing my PhD in that field. And then you have economics, neuroscience, psychology, computer engineering, control theory, linguistics, and so on. Different applications of AI or different applications that are AI enabled, such as expert systems, natural language processing, speech recognition or understanding, handwriting recognition, computer vision, machine learning, intelligent agents, fuzzy logic, lot of subtopics that are under a huge umbrella called AI, to the extent that even big data analytics cannot be done without AI, decision support systems, robotics, autonomous robots, and so on. So how did it start, and what do we mean today by AI? First, the main three topics or disciplines that we really find a lot around are AI as a global or as a main title, and then machine learning, which is a subset of AI, and then deep learning, which is a subset of machine learning. What are these? AI started a long time ago, and it started in the 60s, 70s, and 80s using logic, if-then rules, decision trees, expert systems, which are precise and they can give you the same results when you do repetitive jobs for a long time. But their intelligence was very limited, very hierarchical. And then later on came the machine learning, which is a subset of AI, which includes statistical techniques that enable machines to improve and learn by experience. So they learn step by step, but this learning is based on some statistical techniques. And then comes the deep learning, which is more into mimicking how the human brain is physically constructed. So as you can see in this slide, from the 50s to the late 70s, everyone was talking about artificial intelligence, and what they meant at that time was some kind of structured automation. And then after that, they started talking about machine learning till the late 2000 or beginning of the second millennium. And that involved learning by learning machines. So the machine will improve its performance from one iteration to another, whereas in the first model, it was repeating the same results. And then later on, deep learning or artificial neural networks, which we will see in a minute. And they will try to, those who try to mimic, as I said, the human brain in order to, so the first type, I would call it logic and rule-based AI, and then pattern or machine learning, and then deep learning. So the first type has different applications or models, such as expert system, natural language processing, text and voice recognition sometimes, and then pattern recognition, which compares a certain image or data to a set of data in the database in order to decide which way to go and so on. Whereas the machine learning is a bit more related to algorithms, mathematical models, training data, unsupervised learning based on training data, and then predictions, future predictions. Some sample applications of machine learning, again, is sentimental analysis. I think we have a presentation today about sentimental analysis as well, and sentiment analysis and extraction of key topics in the data and document classifications and so on, in addition to image and video recognition, face recognition, intelligent AR navigation, self-driving cars, and so on. The artificial neural networks, it's a simulation or kind of mimicking the structure of the human brain, assuming that there are a number of neurons at different layers, an input layer where the input is given and an output layer, and in between there are hidden layers. The more layers we have, the more complexity we can represent. And this kind of artificial neural networks, when it's applied to solving problems, it's called deep learning. And with sufficient number of hidden layers, we can take any kind of data and we can train the system by giving them input, output data. So we need to have sets of data that are available. So we can give them, let's say, a picture of a car, and then we say as an input, and then the word car as an output, then another picture of a bicycle, and then the output is text. And then later on, if he sees a bus, he will have to produce a result for the bus. So there are many types of applications for that, which we started seeing, starting from personal assistants, which like the ones we see on the mobiles, which were based mainly on machine learning rather than deep learning. But nowadays, virtual assistants, chatbots, receptionists, healthcare diagnostics, entertainment, aggregation of different components, composing music, image captioning, autonomous robots, reviews, summarization of documents automatically, correction of essays, and so on. All this is done by deep learning applications. Now, a little bit of history just to know where we're heading. First, I will focus mainly on the exponential growth in computer power, which you can see in this exponential growth here. And since in the past 100 years almost, we started with very primitive electromechanical things, and then we had relays, and then we had vacuum tubes, and then we have transistors, and then we had integrated circuits, and then we have personal computers, all the way to the year 2015, when the computer power surpassed the brain power of a mouse. And things are moving very fast now, so that by 2023, the existing processing power would surpass the brain power of a human being. And by 2045, it's expected that the combined computing power over the clouds and the aggregation of clouds and utilization of different thousands of farms of servers at the same time, this will reach a point to surpass the brain power equivalent to the entire humanity. So again, this is a fast-moving world, fast-moving technology. Humans will have to coexist with technology. They will have to deal with cloud computing, cybersecurity, robotics, augmented reality, simulation, Internet of Things, and big data analytics. And at the heart is AI. So humans must merge with machines or become irrelevant, as Elon Musk says. And there are a couple of questions, as I said before. Can we emulate or simulate a human brain if we reach a computing power which surpasses the computing power of the brain, which means if we build a computer, a supercomputer, which can be as powerful as the human brain, can we build a human, or our brain is not only the physical brain, but also a self-conscious soul or spirit, as it's called in different places and different sciences and even in religion. And can AI development lead to some kind of artificial consciousness when the machine reads? Nowadays, you can see a lot of OCR, and if you scan any text, it's automatically translated into text. But does it understand the meaning of that text? If we can put some AI there, maybe one word by word, it can do the matching. How about sentence by sentence, or overall essay, or when we go and do some sentiment analysis for social media in the entire country to see whether the overall population is happy or not very happy about a specific topic that happened today or a specific event, and so on. In addition to all this, AI is is driven by the amount of data that is being generated. Currently, in 2010, we had a certain amount of data which is measured in zettabyte, where 1 zettabyte is 1 billion terabyte. 1 terabyte is that hard drive that we have, external hard drive at home. So in 2020, we had 44 zettabytes, which is 44 billion terabytes all over the world. And then it's expected that in 2025, this 44 will become 175 zettabytes. Also, during 2015, 2016, the amount of data produced by all kinds of devices is equal to the total amount of data that has been produced, digital data that has been produced from the beginning of human history. And in 2020, there were 26 billion IoT devices. Obviously, just to make a point here, out of these 27 billion IoT devices that are connected to the internet, there are approximately 7 billion mobile phones and computers. All the rest, which is around 19 billion, is different types of devices that produce all kinds of unstructured data, like data that comes from any connected device at home or in the car or whatever. And all this data is not being analyzed. Only 5% of this data is being analyzed. Now, this number, 26 billion devices, is expected to become in 2025, 76 billion devices. And this is why the current internet system cannot cope with all this drastic increase in the number of connected devices and the amount of data that's available. And this is why we need the 5th generation, the 5G, which is now becoming part of the international geopolitics and competition. So only AI has the power to analyze this data, because human intelligence is limited and cannot cope with all kinds of this data, especially the unstructured data, which requires AI to do some kind of pattern recognition or data mining and do some intelligent correlations in order to come up with some future trends and expectations. Therefore, there are 3 clusters that are being merged together: the physical world, which includes robotics and the human being and so on, and the digital, which is everything in the cloud and software and so on, and devices, and the biological. Now, even there are modern technology in neuroscience and biotechnology and so on that is directly communicating, where chips are directly communicating with the brain, and different types of neuroscience innovations in that field. So we're going towards an unlimited computational resources and connections, pervasive computational thinking. Everything is recorded, nothing is forgotten. And we're moving to a master algorithm. Imagine when all those connections, all those data, the clouds and data farms and so on, can be integrated together and work as one master algorithm, which is now being implemented in different ways in social media and analysis of the huge amounts of data that are produced by the Facebooks and Google and Twitter and all this stuff. So this exponential growth has produced different types of applications, including driverless cars, traffic patterns, robots scanning and understanding environments, HoloLens, language translation, computer writing reviews or resumes or grading essays, instead of you going and reading a Plato 1,000-page or 500-page book. If you can have a system that can give you a 20 pages summary, that would be great. So again, this is not replacing the human brain. It's kind of supporting and coexisting and enhancing the human power, so to speak. And this has been implemented in different fields, healthcare, medicine, education, security, transportation, and so on. Just to give this final slide about this part related to how can we use AI? Do we have to buy everything and host it on our servers inside the library and whatever? Nowadays, everything is on the cloud. Major companies have shifted from, IBM have shifted from hardware production and all this stuff into building modern, innovative, huge, large-scale solutions. One of them is IBM Watson, which is their brand for AI mega system. This system is based on a Linux Red Hat operating system that sits on various an aggregation or a hybrid cloud platform, which utilizes all kinds of power and storage from different clouds, from IBM Cloud, Amazon, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, and others. And then on top of that, you have different types of tools for automation, for data analysis, for security, for building applications, for integration with different areas, for optimizing management processes, and so on. All this is provided to any user as a service. So it's all hosted on the cloud. All what you need to do is to build some, and on top of this, they have already some base and extended services to help people easily design their processes or collect their data or provide the input to the system, and then the system will provide you real time with the outcome of the AI. So AI now is provided as a service, similar to software as a service. When you subscribe to Office 365 online, or you subscribe to IBM Cloud Pack for AI, once you do the local design of your system and your processes and so on, the system on the cloud will do all your AI for you. Of course, this is one option. And one of the major questions that is always asked for any small or medium enterprises or even chains of libraries, whether you want to develop a solution at home or in-house, or you want to get a ready-made turnkey solution, or you will bring a third party to help you develop and understand where the technology is going and how it can improve your processes and so on. And the good thing is that since today we're talking to a huge group of experts from different libraries in Lebanon and internationally, this is something that will become a daily development, and a lot of standards will appear from different associations and groups of libraries across the world. Now, when we implement technology, any technology, into any new business or process or structure, there is this SAMR model, which starts with introducing basic technology to substitute some activities, but no functional change is implemented. And then the second layer would be to augment, where you use more technology to act as a direct substitute, but some functional improvement to that specific sector. Then modification, where you start redesigning the tasks, and finally redefinition, which is to create new tasks that were not previously inconceivable. Obviously, the first two are in literature called enhancement. The second two are transformation. In library technology, so to speak, before implementing AI, many of the automation systems that have been in place for decades now have been doing the first two layers. And then with more smart and intelligent applications, we will see more transformation of different services and tasks. So the integrated library system, or the different types of library automation systems used to automate the conventional tasks or services, or activities at the library, from acquisition to cataloging to searching to circulation to different networking and so on, and sharing. With artificial intelligence, many of these services will be further developed and enhanced, and new services, including recommendation systems, virtual assistants, robotics, AI, artificial AR, different activities. So what are the main changes that we can foresee by implementing AI into the library activities? Probably there are three main pillars. One is intelligent resource system, which boils down to developing some intelligent procurement decision system for the procurement activities of the library. The second is intelligent management of different managing storage, warehouse, books, and so on, or security management. And the third type is intelligent services, including application services, consulting services, and knowledge services. When we talk about intelligent resource system, we see that it can automatically collect and integrate all kinds of user personalized demand information, as well as various other influencing factors, including group characteristics, user personalized information, recommendations, and purchases of books, expert advice, annual budget, and so on, as well as looking what is available as open source in order to optimize the decision of procurement. The second part, which is under intelligent management, it starts with warehouse management. So if you can produce a self-service management, which is an automatic book circulation and paper document management, where books are stored randomly on the bookshelves, not in order, and thus reducing the multifarious bookshelf arrangement tasks, where a robot system can do the management of automatic and unmanned counting or checking and sorting of books, of book storage, and so on. This can be done by integrating RFID technology and having an intelligent book inventory robot, like it's being implemented in different places in China, in North Carolina State University, the BookBot, which is a robot that manages up to 2 million items and delivers any item within 5 minutes of clicking on the online catalog. And it does full data tracking of all transactions at any time. And also another example, the Work Robotics Project, CAPM at Johns Hopkins, which automatically retrieves books on the shelves and carries them to scanning stations and performs even automatic text analysis after scanning if needed. And the second type of intelligent management is intelligent security management, related to seat management, lending management, identity management, face recognition, fingerprints, linked to student information, so students don't have to carry their identification cards anymore. Just by scanning their face, they can go wherever they are allowed to go. And this is done through implementation of deep learning or even machine learning at the face image acquisition, then pre-processing, then feature extraction, and then matching with whatever existing databases, and then recognition. The other type of intelligence is at the service level. We have intelligent applications, such as when you implement self-service seat management, for example, or library ATM, or print copy management, or appointment management system for lectures, and so on. This is done by, again, having breakthrough to the space, or this will result in the breakthrough of space-time boundary with artificial intelligence, and help the library to expand the services, extend the services, and expand the scope of targets, and therefore reducing logistics and labor cost. and it enhances the user's engagement and optimizes the allocation of resources and reduces the probability of manual or human errors. Intelligent consulting services. This is an important part of the library services, but it is usually limited in number. It's usually insufficient because of the limited number of consulting librarians and the low efficiency of manual consultation, as well as the time limit for consulting work. And while when we introduce intelligent consulting services, it can effectively meet the user's needs and make up for those shortcomings, as well as it can realize the independent, instant, convenient, and always available services for the library anytime. And this has been implemented in various universities, mainly in China as well. The third type is intelligent knowledge services, which is the core of the library services. And this is related to in having more innovative solutions and rapid development of AI technologies have resulted in the possibility of developing or of capturing intelligent analysis of user behavior, intelligent management of information, intelligent operations of services, and so on. So the overall implementation of all these technologies have been slow for various reasons, mainly insufficient funding, difficulties in big data collection, and data is not open all the time and not available, short supply of AI talent, and lack of AI thinking or strategizing at the library level. So AI now has the ability to both enhance and replace existing library functions. On one hand, some of the functions can be enhanced, some of them can be replaced, if provided that libraries develop innovative thinking. And also, there are some influences on the future of libraries, such as having next generation of search, browsing, and intelligent search, and semantic, away from semantic analysis and keyword search, integrated speech recognition, machine translation, speech synthesis to support real-time and multilingual translation, cloud services for translation and identification of diverse and complex content, in addition to some other additional services that are being integrated, including guidance services, deep learning models for information retrieval, as well as accurate information intelligence by collecting different types of personalized information in order to provide services such as recommended books, literature information in specific field, cutting-edge research hotspots, and other things. All this would require a new librarian or a new set of roles for the librarian, including thinking out of the box, becoming an information manager and analyst, information advisor, system and networking manager, change agent, facilitator, somehow educator, collaborator, business manager, knowledge manager, and so on. We're not saying that we need to replace all the existing librarians. In fact, there is part of it upskilling or training and upgrading the skills of existing librarians, as well as attracting new blood with new skills into the new library system once all these changes are implemented. At the academic library level, also there are various activities that are rotating around providing personalized student learning, so the librarian would be taking care of supporting curricula with online content, personalized professional learning, maintaining the robust infrastructure, looking at the budget, data privacy, collaborative leadership, and optimizing space and time. And there are also some other roles specifically related to enhancing the existing and conventional services at the library level. Finally, AI do not intend to replace librarians, but to enrich and enhance knowledge exchange and interpersonal interactions. Therefore, libraries should look at AI in a more positive attitude and contribute to the activation of smart library functions and services. And library staff upskilling and the recruitment of new skills is a major factor of change. And AI solutions, when you say, I want to implement AI at my library, are you going for turnkey solutions, as I said before, or develop it locally, or use third party, or hybrid? These are decisions that need to be done based on case by case situation. Again, funding is a big issue, and there is some difficulty to show a financial ROI that is attractive for government institutions or even for university management in order to put the required investments or funding so that this change is being implemented at the library level. And of course, managing the change, because many people would be afraid of what technology will bring. Many people would think this is too risky. This is something very far. We should not start it now. Let's delay it as much as we can. And let's keep doing what we're doing with some minor modifications. And then we will see what will happen. So again, there should be vision, strategy, and change management. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sabali, for such an extensive presentation. I think this needs a session on its own. And I think you have opened our eyes to what's coming in the future and what we as librarians should also be watching out for. Because I think you notice they always tell you that librarians are always hesitant to change. I do not agree with them on that. I believe we are like chameleons. We adapt as we move along. You know, a librarian 30 years ago is not the same as a librarian today. So that's one thing. Well, now we can move on to the question and answer session. Dr. Sabali, we have a question from a Lebanese colleague, Dominga Aboud, and yes, she's talking more about the bad conditions of the infrastructure in Lebanon. You're giving us such fantastic solutions, but how can we apply this when we have such a bad infrastructure in Lebanon? And would we be able to provide these services to our users, our students, our faculty? What's the solution here?
Well, I've been involved in the past year with online learning in Lebanon as I was in charge for some short time about developing the new curriculum. But I can tell you stories about the problems in Lebanon and the infrastructure well, let me stay within limits. So yes, the point is, infrastructure is a problem today for sure. No electricity, internet connection, everything can be hindering. However, such solutions will take at least a year or 2 or 3 to be implemented. And technology is moving ahead. Once we have 5G, which is probably 3 to 5 years from today, you will not have any issues anymore with probably most of the current connectivity issues that that make us frustrated in Lebanon will cease to exist. So technology is moving. Lebanon requires a different solution. Lebanon requires first a new political regime, a new political solution. But
we need AI in this case.
AI, actually, we have plenty of robots. We need less robots in Lebanon. So the point is, those solutions do not require heavy infrastructure when it comes to the user, because the user is using his mobile or his computer to go into Google or any other service, and most of these services at the back end, they use similar technologies. So what you need is the connectivity between the library and the cloud. Should
Yes.
be a good, reliable connection. Now, this probably will put some additional cost on the library itself, but on the end user, whatever exists for any other service exists for this service. So whether they're spending some fun time on social media or they're using this part of this time for some constructive work through library services and smart library services, it will be the same in terms of the end user experience.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Sabali, there's a question here concerning, well, because you just mentioned the situation, especially in Lebanon. The actual, how can libraries in Lebanon and the Arab world benefit from the AI and IoT with the situation we're in, and with, you know, the impression that, let's be honest, the impression people have about libraries in the Arab world is not like the States or Europe or China, or I'm going to move to China, it seems like. So how would you be able, how would I as a librarian, let's say as a director, and this goes back to advocacy, Barbara, how will I convince my administration to actually, and we mentioned it as one of the challenges, to actually support me financially, human resources, develop my skills to be able to answer to the questions of artificial intelligence and IoT? That's a question we're thinking about.
Well,
both of you can answer.
So
go ahead, Dr.
Would you like to go? Yeah. So as I said at the beginning of my presentation, the starting point would differ from one country to another and from one library to another. And you rightly said that in the Arab world, and mainly in Lebanon, maybe some other countries have different status as well, libraries don't have or did not yet take their national role or their national development role. I mentioned that libraries should be not only a platform or a place where people should gather to read books and get information, but also a social hub, a learning and development hub, a digital services, awareness, all this stuff. So these roles are not yet achieved or anywhere close to achieve in Lebanon. And I personally don't know much about many of the libraries. I read about them after I got the invitation from you. What I knew about before was the AUB academic libraries or some libraries at some universities. So this social / developmental / cultural aspect of the library is not there yet in Lebanon. Now, whether we implement technology or not, for sure technology will expedite the exposure of what a library can do in society, especially with the new normals after COVID. However, when it comes to budgeting, this is another story, because as I said, ROI is very hard to show. And in advanced countries, ROI is very hard to show. How about in countries with financial crisis and with less exposure of the strategic role of libraries and the lack of this identity of a network of libraries? I mean, I would love to see you guys more in the media, more in society, more people understanding that there is a network of collaborating libraries across Lebanon, who would then, if they want to buy any solution or to implement any solution, anyway, the cost will be distributed rather than one single library would close on what it has and would do all kinds of competition with the next door library. I mean, you are one community, and there is a long way to go before we reach a point where we can say we're ready to implement the latest technology.
Yes. Dr. Salabi, we go back to another question. It's a dual question here, and they're asking about the best way to upscale the library workers today as they are. And another question related to it in another aspect is, in the Arab world, do we have institutions that are offering degrees that are getting the new generation of librarians ready for this, or do we need to study our curriculums and go, or do we have to go and travel and get our degrees from somewhere else?
Okay, couple of points that are interrelated. First, I will start from the last question and then go back.
Yep.
Our universities or Arab universities that are offering library study or library information management or whatever have archaic and old curricula. They need to modernize their curricula. In any way, even in my opinion, digital literacy, which includes many areas related to library activities, should be included even in school curricula, not only university curricula. This is one. Two, the trend nowadays for lifelong learning and continuing education and even higher education is to shy away from conventional degrees and go to micro credentials and to shorter certification programs that are very specialized in specific areas. And currently, with the new trends of online learning and MOOCs and many other EDX, Coursera, Future Learn, and so on, you will find hundreds of available, either free or very low cost courses, and which lead to specific professional certificates or micro masters or whatever, which can develop specific areas of the skills and competencies required by the new librarian or the nowadays or the future librarians. The main starting point would be, though, is that each library or each association puts a common ground of what would be required from a librarian in Lebanon in the coming 5 years, which might be a little bit different than what is required in Germany, by the way, or in other Arab countries or in China, because then you have to start wherever you are now and do some kind of needs analysis and needs assessment in order to tailor the right programs for Lebanon or for any other country in the region, or even for your own library. And nowadays, there are a lot of tools that can be done. This is why when I said that library management nowadays should include an aspect of professional development and education rather than just going to one size fits all training session on how to use Microsoft Excel. I mean, this is totally out of.
A last question for you, since we're talking about experience. I've had the experience in a library where the biggest question raised is privacy, protection of data. Especially now in Lebanon, we have major digitization projects going on heritage collections. As Barbara said, that is another mission that we have, preserving our heritage. A lot of librarians are hesitant in moving into this cloud and placing all their digitized material on the cloud, no matter how secure. The Pentagon got hacked. I don't know, these are things that make us scared a bit. How can you make it a bit brighter for us in life? make it easier for us to, okay, it's okay, you can do this, but you can do that as well.
Okay, I just answered a similar question on the chat.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's okay. I can tell you that the moment you digitize your material, you have to store it somewhere, right? On your personal computer, on the server, on local hosting, on the cloud, on a private cloud, on public cloud.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Probably hosting it on the cloud is the least unsecure option, because putting it on your computer or your mobile or your server inside the library, it's much easier to hack physically and technologically than hacking the cloud. Now, when it comes to the cloud option, there are many options. There are the public clouds. You can have your own account on Amazon or Azure or whatever. Or you can have a private cloud on one of those international services as well. And also, I just told them, for example, in Lebanon, Ogero has created or now is able to provide public and private cloud services, and they have hosted Google technology. So you can have your own cloud for the association or for one library in Lebanon, let's say AUB library, since I know them. And this private cloud is hosted on Ogero server farms. It's very secure. No one can go into your data, including Ogero. And it's based on international technology like Google or others. Now, people who hacked the Pentagon would, if they try to hack that private cloud, they might be successful. I can't guarantee that, but
No.
for sure, it's much easier for them to hack your own servers at the library.
Okay, but it all comes down to cost anyway. We can go on talking for hours and hours and hours. I know it would be great, and I hope we will be able to invite you both again, maybe on other events at our association, to talk in more detail and get to know you personally more and to get to know your different expertise and experiences more. Thank you very much for a very
honored. Thank you
interesting session, Barbara, Dr. Sabah. It was very nice, and thank you.